Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video and another Friday Night Magic report. Now, if you haven't figured it out by now by either the thumbnail of this video or the title, this week at Friday Night Magic we played Golgari Gardens, and it had some very interesting matchups, and honestly ones that I wasn't really expecting based on the kind of decks I'm used to seeing at the store. So we're going to get into it. We're going to take a look at just what I brought with the main deck for my list, as well as taking a look at the sideboard. As always, guys, if you enjoy the content that I create, if you could leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate the support. And with that said, let's get into it. Right, and so let's take a look at what I brought in the main deck. So starting off with the creatures, we had two copies of Thorn of the Black Rose. Pretty great card there, as the Monarch really helps you draw basically an extra card every turn. And with the amount of removal you run in this deck, it's pretty easy to maintain. The Monarch, generally speaking. Also got three copies of Crypt Rats, one of my favorite rats in the format, basically a staple at this point. Also brought in four copies of Troll of Khazad-dûm, as this helps us fetch all of our lands that are typed a swamp, and there are a few in the deck even outside of our basic swamps. All right, so we got four trolls, and then three copies of Avenging Hunter. This is probably one of our big payoffs in the deck, including the troll, as the troll can be a very big beater that is hard to block. And then the Avenging Hunter just brings in the initiative, which is really great. Then we also got four copies of Tithing Blade, which is an amazing removal spell. Also has the added effect of crafting with the creature, so you can basically ping your opponent every turn. And there's definitely been games that I've played in Gardens where I've won by pinging them to death. So this is a very great card. It's definitely quickly become a format staple ever since it got released. And then we also got three copies of Ichor Wellspring, helps us draw a lot of cards, and then three copies of Lembas. So I got a 3-3 split between Ichor Wellspring and Lembas here. And I got one copy of Blood Fountain, as this does give us an extra artifact that we can sacrifice to draw more cards, as well as maybe getting back an Avenging Hunter, a Troll, maybe any one of our creatures. It really depends on the situation. And then I got four copies of Fanatical Offering and four copies of Reckoner's Bargain. Now, you might be wondering why there's no deadly dispute here. And there's kind of a reason for that. Basically, when I built this deck, I didn't have any more deadly disputes left in my collection, and I knew there was a deadly dispute promo. So I started playing the deck without it and just running. I had, a playset of Reckoner's Bargain and Fanatical Offering, so I decided I would just run it with that. And as I've been playing this deck, there hasn't been a situation coming out where I really needed that extra treasure token. There is an argument that you can play your Avenging Hunter a turn early, but generally, I like to play my Avenging Hunter a little later on in the game after I've basically cleared the board, got my opponent into a situation where they're just trying to top deck something that they can play. And so Avenging Hunter is a really good thing to close out the game with toward the mid to late game. So playing it, playing my Avenging Hunter by turn 4 isn't really something I truly care about. Also, Reckoner's Bargain is, I think, really nice with just the amount of life that you can gain from it. Especially, you can sack a Troll of Khazad-dûm and gain 6 life. And with how much red decks I often see uh, at Friday Night Magic events, gaining some life is pretty important. And alright, so moving on, we got four copies of Cast Down. And then also four copies of Defile, as we're nearly an all swamp build outside of a few lands. So Defile usually hits for quite a lot. And then I also got two copies of Spinning Darkness. This also lets us gain a little life and is a really good removal spell, we usually cast it for free since we can just exile black cards from our graveyard instead of paying its mana cost. So that is a pretty fun card. And then one copy of Suffocating Fumes in the main deck. I have been thinking about maybe going up one more as Koldatha Red is they can get a lot of damage through early, like as early as 10-3, they can be swinging for at least 10 damage, which is pretty nuts. And it's really hard, no matter what deck you're playing, it is pretty hard to stabilize that early on in the game when you've already lost like half of your life total before turn 4. So Suffocating Fumes is a really good card against Koldatha Red, as a lot of their creatures outside of the Tomb Raider and the Blast Runner all have 1 toughness. So you can basically sweep the majority of their board. And then in our lands, we got 4 Colony Gardens, 1 Bojuka Bog, 1 Golgari Rot Farm, which is great for bouncing both our Colony Gardens and our Bojuka Bog to get some more value out of them. And then I got 1 Woodland Chasm, which is typed a swamp, so we can fetch it with our trolls. And this helps fix our mana as it can tap for a black or a green. Then we got 2 copies of Witch's Cottage. So I recently went up to 2. When I first built the deck, I was on 1, but now I am at 2. Mostly because sometimes I just need to get a creature back, and sometimes, you just want to fetch it with your troll, and then just put your troll back on top of your library by playing this as your land for turn. And then the rest of the mana base are all basic swamps. And so that is the main deck. And then in the sideboard, what I got is it's a pretty standard sideboard for Golgari Gardens. We got 3 copies of Nihil Spellbomb, so we can fight all of the Tolarian Terror decks as well as, anyone trying to do a Flicker Loop or a Persist combo. A lot of the combos outside of Wall combo or Defender combo play out of the graveyard. So Nihil Spellbomb is really great against them. And then we got 3 copies of Drown in Sorrow. So this card, I know it's a really good new sweeper in the format and basically sweeps the entire board against a lot of the really aggressive creature-based decks. But it's sorcery speed, and with how good Koldatha is, I've been thinking of maybe cutting 2 for some other instant speed sweepers, as those are just seeming like the best thing to bring in against Koldatha Red right now. So I'm not really sure if I'm going to keep it at the 3. I think a lot of the stock lists out there are on 3, but with my experience playing the deck, I'm starting to wonder if 3 is not the best or the most optimal. So I am considering switching that up, but we shall see. And then we also got 3 copies of Weather the Storm, which is a great way to gain a bunch of life and basically negate all the damage that Koldatha Red did. And then we got 3 copies of Duress. We can bring this in against control matchups. It is pretty good. And then 3 copies of Troublemaker Oof. And this card I've been seeing some lists running, so I decided I want to run it as well. But after the last couple games running it, I'm starting to wonder if this card is a bit of a scam, since you basically have to have a token or an artifact in order to use it. Otherwise, it just doesn't do anything. So I am unsure on whether this card is gonna continue to be in the deck. So we might be going for some other cards, like a D-Glamour maybe, I think might be a better card for the deck. Basically because there is a no, you can play it anytime you have the mana to play it. This one you need to have certain things onto the battlefield, so I'm unsure if this is gonna stay in the list forever. And the deck does make a considerable amount of tokens and also has a lot of artifacts. So, and you can, create artifacts with your Fanatical Offering. If you're running Deadly Dispute, you can create treasures. these sort of things. So you can make tokens, especially, with your plant tokens. There's a lot of tokens and artifacts in the deck, but then if you're in a situation where you don't have one and you got to kill an enchantment or an artifact, having this in your hand is just a dead card. So I'm starting to wonder if it's not the choice. And then the rest of the deck is just a bunch of tokens. Got a lot of cool plant tokens and all of the other relevant ones. Okay, so now let's talk about the matchups. So I did get the bye for the final round, so I did get a default win there. My first matchup was against Wall's Combo. And going into that match, it was pretty tough. Basically, both games we played, they beat me 2-0. Both games they played, I killed a lot of stuff, but at a certain point, I just ran out of removal. And there was just not much we could do. We don't really have a great way to interact um, with them or really stop their combo. As we have a bunch of graveyard hate we can take in the sideboard against combo decks that play out of the yard and just take their combo piece away. But with Wall's combo, once you run out of removal in your hand, there's really not much you can do. You don't have counter spells. So it is a pretty tough match. I mean, I think in one game I killed, let's see, about three of their I can't remember the name of the card. One of the cards that can make basically infinite colored mana. I killed that card about three out of four copies of it, and then they just found another way to make different colored mana and go infinite and just kill me with their defender that ventures into the dungeon infinitely. So we just basically lost that game. And then basically the same thing happened again. I had to answer certain cards as I entered the battlefield, and we got rid of everything that was a perceived threat, and we just ran out of removal again. Even though we have a ton of removal in this deck, there just wasn't enough at the perfect time, which maybe makes me think that I really need that even if they have the things that can make infinite mana, I really need to wait until they put a freed from the real on, or they're actually trying, or they are set up to go infinite on that turn, and then maybe I kill the stuff on their upkeep. Definitely learned a bit from playing that match. I don't think I've ever had that matchup with Gardens against Walls. Definitely seems like it can be a pretty tough one, as this deck can tap out a lot, and a combo deck like Walls combo can take advantage of the fact that you are tapped out and don't really have a way to interact with them. So yeah, we lost that match, and my second match that I played was against Orzhov Pestilence. And actually, it was an older list, but my opponent played it, I would say, perfectly. And I think I did a pretty good job playing against them. However, Pestilence is a Magic the Gathering card, and that just kind of destroyed us, especially because as Gardens really doesn't have an answer to Guardian of the Guild pack. That card is really, really good, seeing as all of our removal spells outside of our Tithing Blades can't kill a Guardian. So with without a Tithing Blade, and I think the first game I couldn't even find one Tithing Blade before they beat me. Um, so we couldn't really do anything against the Guardians. Second game, it was kind of more of the same. It did go quite a bit longer as we were able to extend the game by playing Weather the Storms, and we had our oops. We were able to take care of, I think, a couple copies of Pestilence, but then they found the third one and basically took the game over from there as they did have a Guardian on the field, and they just gain a lot of life. So it definitely seems like Pestilence is not a great matchup for Golgari Gardens. Certainly, there are a lot of really good matchups for Gardens. Pestilence and Walls Combo definitely seem like some of the worst ones for the deck. But all in all, it was a pretty fun event. I was really happy to see to play against some decks that I haven't had a lot of experience playing, in these events. So that was pretty cool, and it's always a good time just to hang out and turn cards sideways. Super super fun. Definitely learned some things on just those kind of matchups, and maybe possibly some ways might want to adjust my sideboard so that I have more things to bring against those matchups that do seem to be rather tough. And that's going to do it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed hearing about some seemingly very bad matchups for Golgari Gardens. Would love to hear from you down in the comment section below on ways that you might think we can improve the list to fight against these matchups, or any tips you might have if you've encountered these matchups before playing Gardens yourselves. As always, I hope you all are having a wonderful day, and I will see you all next time.